You're listening to the Fab Entrepreneur Show, and this is episode 10. In this episode, we're talking about what a signature course is and why you should have one. Hey guys, it's Mariah.
And I'm Megan Mins, and we talk a lot about signature courses, whether it's a blog post or here on the podcast or in our Facebook group. And we get a lot of questions about what is a signature course and should you have one? So I'm really excited to talk about this today and really explain that to everyone.
Let's dive in. So what Megan said is so true. We talk all the time about having a signature course, and we talk about it and we say that phrase a lot. And then a lot of people ask us, okay, but back up, what do you mean by a signature course? Why is there a difference between a signature course and a regular course? Or why do you have to preface it with saying having a signature course is important? So today we're going to get into all of that and talk about kind of the problems we see as well when people don't have a signature course. They try to sell online courses, but instead of going the route of having one or two signature programs that they really become known for, they go the route of having like 10 or 20 tiny mini courses, and it actually is really unsustainable to run a business that way. So we're not just talking about launching signature courses for the fun of it. It's actually the most strategic way to have a sustainable course business as opposed to one that just burns you out.
So Mariah, what is a signature course?
Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the features, what makes a signature course as opposed to any old online course that you could make. And as you guys might know, we have a program called Launch Your Signature Course, which is why we talk about this concept all the time. And again, we're not just teaching you in Launch Your Signature Course like how to create any little mini course. We really encourage you to create a course that is such a valuable asset that you can launch it again and again and again for years to come. That to me is the cornerstone of what a signature course is. What it is an asset that you can sell again and again. Instead of having these little tiny sort of $40, $60 mini courses that you might put out there once and then you make a couple $1,000s, but that's it. That's kind of the life cycle of one of those. The life cycle of a signature course is like years and years and years. And I know this from experience. I have a course that is 4 years old. The exact same content, the exact same course still sells to this day.
That's awesome. I think one of the things you said, obviously all of it was good, but I like the idea of thinking of your course as an asset. And I don't know, this always sticks out to me because I think it's taking yourself seriously. It's not just a line of products that you just like create one time and never use again, and create something new and never use again. I really love the idea of thinking of what you create as an asset in your business, and the fact of it being a long-term asset and not something that you're always having to create something new. Because I think when you start getting into courses, that can be an overwhelming fear. It's like, oh, well, I have to keep creating. Like I can't rest, or I can't just like rest with my one course going, So I think addressing the fact that a good course and a signature course actually is something you can create once and just continue to relaunch, and you make improvements. But I think those are some really good points.
A lot of people don't let themselves have people are like actively sabotaging themselves and blocking themselves from having that signature course that allows you to have a sustainable, healthy business that isn't constant content creation mode hamster wheel. That's actually like, no, you made this course. It's worth selling again and again. And that's why we talk about creating a signature course. So what are some of the characteristics that make a signature course a signature course? The first thing is that you can sell it again and again, relaunching it a couple times a year for many, many years. Again, like you said, long-term sustainability is something that not a lot of people talk about because not a lot of people online have experienced it, but I have. Like to have a course that has literally been earning money for years and years and years after I've created it with no extra work that I've done. Like you said, there's like once a year, I just go in and like make sure it's all up to date. But that takes about an hour. Like, it's like, obviously with Launch Your Signature course, our biggest, most expensive program, we spend a lot of time updating things, but it really depends on what your program entails of how much it takes to upkeep it. But this is something that you genuinely create once and sell again and again. That's the first thing. And like you said, like, talking about this as an asset, guys, like, it is crazy to me to say that I have individual programs, individual courses. Some of them have earned $500,000. Some of them have earned millions of dollars, like an individual course asset. I'm not even talking about all of them together. Individually, courses that have earned so much revenue over their lifetime. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about a single launch and what you make in a single launch or a single month. We're talking about a long-term asset. It also becomes sort of the cornerstone of your revenue because you're launching it maybe 1 to 2 to 4 times a year. You know, somewhere between 1 and 4 times a year is a great sort of launch cycle. I used to have a course that I launched 6 times a year. I would launch it every 8 weeks, like on like clockwork kind of. And it was a little much, but it did work. But I would say a better sort of model is like 2 to 4 launch periods a year.
I know this is something you were probably going to talk about, but is people start to expect it. Like a true signature course gets some traction, builds some momentum, people hear about it. And so when you are launching it, 2 times a year or 4 times a year, like there's more of an excitement and people are waiting. And when the doors open, people are ready to buy the day they open, which I think is amazing.
And you can only build up that momentum and that excitement from launching a couple times. So if you launch something once and you're like, meh, just put it on the back burner, I'm done with that, you're bored of it, whatever, you'll never get it to that signature course status because it really does take like 2 or 3 launches to then become like people know it's coming. People are excited about it. They've seen other people talking about it out in social media and in the world and in Facebook groups. They know it's coming and they're really excited. To build up that level of momentum, you have to have a signature course that you launch more than once. And so doing this, and in terms of your revenue, to us, our signature course brings in 80% of our yearly revenue. And it allows us, because it's this consistent revenue, because we launch twice a year, we open the doors, we close the doors, and then we have revenue that pays for our expenses until the next launch happens. So we have this sort of baseline, like our expenses are covered from the launches. And then anything we do in between those launches is like, we get to do side projects that we're excited about. We get to launch mini courses that we're excited about. We get to launch other things like books or whatever. It's not all about
buy some swag.
Yeah, exactly. We get to make femtrepreneur bags and mugs. But things like that where you can reliably, once you've launched a course like one or 2, 3 times, you know what you can expect in terms of revenue, and you can start building a real business around that. Because until you know what your revenue kind of looks like projected out a couple months, you always feel anxious about hiring a VA or paying for something that you're not sure it's going to pan out. But once you've launched your signature course a couple of times, you really get a sense of like, okay, every 6 months, we have this launch that brings in X amount of dollars and that covers us for the next year. The other thing is that, and this is kind of the 2 big things for me, are like the relaunching and the fact that it is not a one and done asset. It is a long-term asset. That's the first thing. The second thing is how it affects you. It establishes you as an expert, as a leader, or as an authority in your niche or your space. That is like the other big pillar of what makes it a signature course. It establishes you as the expert in the thing that you want to be known for. And so I always tell people this because they get confused. They're always like, well, I'm not an expert. I can't make a course. This is my tweetable for you guys. Experts don't create courses. Courses create experts. Boom, drop the mic.
Podcast is over.
Podcast is over, because that's the truth. You experts who already have all the authority that they need, don't go out and say, you know what, I really need to make a course in order to share my thoughts with the world. But if you create a course and you're a nobody and nobody knows your name, if you create a course, people will know your name. And what's really interesting is that this can lead to other opportunities outside of the online course. The online course is great, makes you money, establishes you as an expert. But the things that happen after that is what's really amazing. Things like getting book deals, getting on TV shows, being interviewed by major magazines, like maybe starting a speaking career. A lot of people launch their on-stage speaking careers from online courses that they've created because they become the expert with the course. And then people start inviting them to speak at conferences. People start saying, oh my gosh, can I interview you on TV about this topic? You're clearly the expert. It works backwards, right? Like the course makes you into an expert.
Yeah, I want to clarify something though, and tell me if I'm wrong. But in my mind, that phrase that the course makes you an expert, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be like an expert in what you're teaching. Like you should have experience. I don't want people to just be like, I've never done this before, but I'm going to teach it and then I'll be an expert. So I think it's important to clarify, you do need to have experience and you do need to be an expert in what you're teaching, but you don't have to be known as the expert before you launch the course. Like launching the course, launching your signature course is what's actually going to make you as a known expert and get you, that kind of reputation. So I think is that how you mean it?
That's such a good point. It's not like, and using the Common Camper stuff as an example, it's not like I didn't have any experience in the stuff I was teaching. I absolutely had personal experience, but no one thought, oh, I should, magazines weren't thinking, oh, I should call Mariah and have her, or NPR wasn't thinking, oh, I should call Mariah and have her talk about living in a camper on NPR or whatever. But those things happened after. Like, it's hard to describe because I created a course in such a small niche. And this is, again, just another testament to you guys who are listening, thinking about these small, specific niche courses. If there aren't other courses already in your industry, you're in an amazing position. Because there weren't other courses, I got a book deal offered to me. I had TV shows like
to be
literally
in a museum, right?
Yeah. I got asked to curate a museum exhibit about vintage trailers. I got asked to, be in the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, in New York, which is like weird, like to make an exhibit of my camper there. Like it's crazy opportunities, TV shows, book deals, being in magazines, being on the radio, being on TV, all that stuff happened because I had this course. Journalists and people like that, they like to say like, oh, she's the person we can ask for her opinion about this or quote her in this. So it really led to all those opportunities. And that just continues to happen. I mean, the same thing with our friend Julie Malo, who is a Launch Your Signature course student, because there weren't any other online courses like hers in the fashion design industry. People like Teen Vogue and like, all these like big fashion magazines were like, oh, we'll feature your course because like there aren't any other ones. That's a cool topic we can talk about. You know what I mean? And she got a gig teaching a module from her online course at her dream college in New York City, like where she now gets to like teach as a professor like at this school because she had this online course and it made her like the instant expert. So that stuff is really, really cool. And that's kind of like a side effect of having your signature course.
And can I just say, you said this earlier about how, sometimes people create too many products and they have like 20 little things as opposed to like one signature course. After talking about all of those, like what is a signature course, doesn't that just sound so much more enjoyable of a business model? like I'd rather manage and like involve myself in this one signature course than like 20 courses or mini courses. And I'm not saying 20 flippantly. I mean, that is a common thing. A lot of people just create new products, new mini courses all the time. And I think they're coming from a great place, but I feel like I would burn out personally. Like I don't think I could keep that up. So I feel like just even listening and talking about the signature course again, it's like, that's such a better life. Like I want to live that life.
Exactly. Well, it's a sustainable business model. Courses have been around for a while, but like I said, not a lot of people have the experience to know, like, can an online course be a legitimate long-term sustainable business model? Like, is this going to make money more than the first year, the first 2 launches, and is it going to fizzle out? The answer is no, if you keep putting work into it. And I think that's the difference because some people don't give it that chance. Some people launch something once and that's it, and they don't give it that chance. I will tell you guys that the first time I launched my very first course, I thought that the 100 people that signed up for that first session were the only 100 people that would ever sign up. Like I was like, wow, that's more people than I ever thought would ever sign up. So I guess that's everyone. That's it. But what's crazy is that as we kept launching, I just gave it a chance. I was like, well, we might as well see if I can get a couple more sales the next month. Let's see if I can even get a handful of people to join. I thought that like everyone had joined. And this is such an important lesson to learn, and you can only learn it by actually doing it and seeing it for yourself, is that if you relaunch it and relaunch it and relaunch it, more and more people will buy every single time. It almost doesn't make sense to us. It doesn't make sense to our brains, but it is true. The more you relaunch it, the more people buy. And that's how we were getting up to 300 people a month coming into this course, because you just keep doing it and it builds like a snowball. So instead of thinking, you have to give it that chance. Don't launch once and think, okay, that's it, on to the next thing. Think about how you can relaunch it.
I think that's such a good point. And I almost feel like we could have a whole episode diving deeper into that, because I think this is something that a lot of people do. They put in a lot of work. They launch what they want to be their signature course. They launch it one time, and the technology on their webinar messes up, and they feel like it affected their sales. And even if they got great sales, they ultimately look back at their launch and feel like let down because maybe their webinar technology messed up, or maybe an email bounced back. You never know. And I think people get so discouraged by that. And I think they need to keep this in mind, that you should be relaunching it. So like, no matter what happens the first go around, learn lessons and improve. But like, if the first launch doesn't go the way you want it to, don't stop. Like, don't give up. Like, keep launching and give it the opportunity to really become something. Because launch your signature course, if we only launched it one time, it wouldn't be as well known as it is now. It wouldn't have such recognition because it would have just been one time. I think that's just such an important thing to emphasize.
Yeah, it's true. If you don't give it the chance, it won't become your signature course. You can't just say like, oh, it will magically make $1 million the first try. Like, no, it won't. You got to give it the time and the space to become your signature course. So the other thing too about like why we think it's important to have one or two, like one signature course. There's no reason you can't have more than one course. Like our businesses have like one signature course, and then sometimes there's like a smaller or different course that's kind of complementary. Not saying you never can have more than one, but having one signature course is really great, because you can also, once you create that first launch, you can reuse the launch content again and again and again. So if you're creating not only new courses all the time, which is stressful in and of itself, but creating new launches, I always say that creating a launch is like creating, when you launch your first course, it's creating two courses. You're creating a course's worth of content for the launch, and you're creating a course's worth of content for the actual paid content. It's so much to do, but once you've done it that first time, oh my gosh, everything is like 99% totally easier, smooth sailing. Like after you get through that first launch of like, I wrote the emails, I made the webinar presentation, I figured out this, and this, I made the sales page for the first time. All that stuff is so hard the first time. But then when you go to relaunch, you get to reuse everything you already made. You can tweak it, you can change it, whatever, but 99% of it is already there.
Yeah, I love that.
This to me is the only sustainable way to have an online course business over the long term, is that this stuff gets easier and easier and more systematized every time you do it. Creating and launching brand new courses all the time, it's not only not sustainable for you, right? Like for you as the course creator, you would just get overwhelmed and burnt out. It's not sustainable for your list or your customers. You know what I mean? Like your customers are going to be like, didn't you just come out with something? Why is this different than the thing you already sold to me? Like I'm tired of you pitching all the time. Like to have two or three or four launch seasons a year is sustainable for you and your customers. Okay. So that's really how we like to think of it, is like, you can't just be trying to sell your hot new thing every month to the same people.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And again, like we said, leads to all these extra opportunities for exposure. It's essentially just, the books, the TV shows, the magazines, the being on podcasts and the radio and all that stuff. That to me is just another opportunity to get exposure for your message. So whatever your core message is that you're trying to share with the world, that is just more opportunities for you to amplify what you're trying to say in the world in a kind of big way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, you could be invited to be a speaker. I just think it definitely leads to so many opportunities.
Absolutely. So those are what a signature course is. I hope that kind of breaks down like what are the characteristics of a signature course. Now, we also have a lot of people ask us things that tell me that there are misconceptions about what a signature course means. So for example, a signature course has nothing to do with how much it costs. Because a lot of people have come to us and said, oh, okay, so a signature course is just when you have a course that costs $1,000.
No.
That's actually not the prerequisite. So a signature course to us is, again, long-term asset. You launch it again and again. It puts you on the map as an authority, and it's something that you continue to evolve and work on. The price has nothing to do with it. So, for example, I have a signature course in the vintage camper niche that is $97. It has sold thousands and thousands of copies. It has put me on the map. I'm definitely, I was like the go-to person in that kind of industry, led to all these opportunities, but it was $97. It was also an asset that I've been selling for years and years and years. So it checks all the boxes of, is this a signature course? Costs less than $100. So having a signature course does not mean, oh, well, I need to think of my $2,000 program.
I think that's so important. I think that's the assumption. I feel like most people hear signature course, and based on what they see, they assume that's going to be this $1,000 course. And it doesn't mean it can't be. I think it comes back to what type of business do you want? What type of business model do you want to have? What kind of experience do you want to have for your customers? There's no real right or wrong answer. I think it can be very industry and niche specific, and just what you want to have, how you want to run it. And you can always raise the price also. That's a side topic. But I think it's so good to emphasize that a $97 course can be your signature course. The price doesn't matter. I
mean, there are people who have sold thousands and thousands of copies, and they're really well known for a course that costs $47. And so it's not that a $47 course, or even, Simple Green Smoothies, their program is $79. It is not a high price point, low volume product. It's a high volume, low price point product, but made so many sales. I mean, over a 7-figure business. It's more about okay, this is what they're known for. They launch that program all the time. You know what I mean? They do. I think they launch it 4 times a year. There's all these kind of elements that play into it, but just the cost is not actually a factor of whether or not this can become your signature course. So when we say oh, we see all these people trying to create all these one-off, $40 courses, I'm not saying that your signature course can't cost $40, but once you get into the realm of having 10 or 20 of those in your kind of school or your shop page or something like that, it becomes overwhelming. What we want you to do is sell more of what you've already created. That's the whole point. Is I want to encourage you to create an asset that's so good and so valuable, and the content is evergreen. It helps people so much that you can sell more and more and more of it. And that's what a signature course is. It's something that's just, you created it once, but it's so good and so many people could benefit from it that it allows you to sell it for years and years and years.
Yeah. Oh, I have a question. Would you consider, and I don't know what you're going to say, is a signature course, I think I know. Anyways, is a signature course open and close only, or can it be something that is available to purchase all year round?
It can be evergreen for sure. Yeah. I don't think that is necessarily the end all be all. I don't have a fully formed thought.
No, I'm asking you this on the fly.
But it's not only that, it's that I've been thinking a lot about the evergreen model. And I've been having a lot of conversations. You guys are getting a little behind the scenes right now. I've been having a lot of conversations with people who have been in online courses for a while, for, years, a couple years. And we've all been kind of talking about is this evergreen model that is so tempting to want to pursue, right? It's tempting to want to pursue passive income. It's tempting to want to pursue oh, it's just on a funnel and it's all automated and I have nothing to do with it. It sounds great in theory. And I've talked to so many people who have tried it and then just decided this is not actually how I want to run my business. They miss the power of launching and the energy of launching, or they know that their personality does better when they're going all in on a launch versus setting up an evergreen funnel. I mean, we've been saying that we're going to redo our funnels. We have a funnel that works fine, makes a couple sales a day. It's great. We've always said oh, let's revamp it. Let's rewrite the emails. Let's add this. Let's add a countdown timer. Let's do this. Let's do that. We still haven't done it because it's like, it doesn't bring that same level of energy. It's kind of interesting because I feel like this is not a fully formed thought or an opinion, but it's just a question of like, is the evergreen model really as awesome as it sounds on the outside? As a creator, does it really fulfill you to run a course that you have no say in it? You're not really interacting with your students because it's evergreen. You know what I mean? Like, you're not bringing it. Like, I love when we're bringing in a class of Launch Your Signature course students. It is like my favorite time of year because it's like there's this huge class of people. We're so much
energy
and momentum and excitement, and everyone is starting at step one together, which is really powerful. It's hard when you have an evergreen course and people are trickling in every day. It's hard to get that momentum of like everyone, okay, we're all working on the same thing at the same time. That's powerful. And I think from that perspective, the open close launches is a really powerful way to do a signature course. There's not one way to do it, but I personally like that model.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks for answering my question on on the fly. And I was just curious what your answer would be, because I don't know if we've really talked through that.
I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a question. So I feel like I am in your business. I know what we think a signature course is, obviously, but I still feel like going through and clarifying this for people who may be familiar with them or not, I think it's really powerful. And I think, at least for me, it gets me excited about business and courses. And
you should be excited about creating something that you just get to make better and better. Because I feel like it's hard for me to describe to people who haven't experienced the stress and disappointment and just personal strain that you feel when you've created too many courses to actually keep up with. And I feel like that's a hard thing for me to tell people because they haven't created I've created 10 courses over the last couple of years and they don't all still exist. And it's hard for me to explain to you like, oh, well, even in Femtrepreneur, when we have 4 courses that are our main courses that we're offering, it's too many, and it becomes personally and mentally very draining because instead of just focusing on making one course better and better, like we do with Launch Your Signature course, which is where a lot of our energy goes, it's just harder.
Our efforts are divided.
Yeah. And you should be excited about this idea that like, okay, I can make something once and then I just get to keep making it better and better and just like tweaking it. Like, that is exciting. Don't get excited by the shiny object syndrome, because what it leaves you with is this like, oh shit, now I have 10 courses and I can't update them all at the same time. And my life is just juggling them and trying to figure out how to fit in a promo for every single one during the year. And it's just like too much.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but I'm reading the book Essentialism, which you recommended to me. And I feel like this whole concept goes hand in hand with it because it's about doing less better. And I think that the beauty of a signature course is that kind of concept. Again, you can have other products that complement it and other courses that complement or make sense for your niche, but the idea of having this one thing that you can just continue to be really great at and get better and better at, I'm really into that idea right now.
Yeah, me too. And and that book had such a great impact on me and totally helps you see the reality of like letting go isn't a sacrifice. Letting go, and I should have known this as a minimalist in my life and in my home and possessions. I should have known that it also applies to courses. But of course I'm not smart enough to figure that out until it's too late. But I do think like in terms of, if you feel stressed or you feel unsure about maybe simplifying courses that you want to create, look at the money. Not to be all about the money, but look at your numbers. And if you see that one of your products is bringing in 80% of your revenue, but you're splitting your time between like 10 different things, can we just imagine for a second how much more that one asset could produce if you put 100%? If you go all in on that one thing, think about how much it could explode beyond just the fact that it's already your most popular product. That's just so true for us when we look at the numbers, and I'm just like, these are the two things that bring in 99% of our revenue. Why do we even sell the other stuff? Like, why do we even bother? So this is something we're always refining, but if you feel like you're struggling with what is your signature course, what are people buying the most of from you?
I think that's so good. So if anyone listening is interested in maybe creating their own signature course, is there anywhere they can go to learn more?
What a good question, Megan. Like that little setup right there. So you guys, as some of you know, we have a program called Launch Your Signature Course. What we're doing this year, you guys are getting a little behind the scenes because you guys are listeners of the podcast. We are doing a brand new video series, which I could not be more excited about. It's actually all brand new content. It's not content that anyone has ever seen before. It's not even content pulled out of the course. It's literally brand new content, new concepts I've been testing, new ideas I've been testing, people that we've interviewed and case studies and all of these strategies that are really like next year's model kind of stuff. This is not the stuff that anyone else is talking about. I'm really, really excited to bring it to you. So if you go to launchyoursignaturecourse.com, you can actually sign up, be the first to know when we release the video series. And in the meantime, you're going to get your course creator starter kit so that you can kind of start just penciling in and start planning out your course. You're going to get an overall checklist, you're going to get a cheat sheet, you're going to get a little planning sheet so that you can get started thinking about your course before we dive into the video series and we really get into the nitty gritty of creating and launching your own course. I'm so excited about it.
Me too. I can't wait. I mean, like you said, it's all new content. So I think it's going to be amazing for everyone. It is like a video training series. So you will totally walk away with amazing information and strategies. So definitely check it out. And if you want the show notes for this episode, to find links and resources to everything we mentioned, including a link to go straight to that workshop or the video training series to register, go to thefemshow.com/10 and you can grab all of those links right there.
And if you like this episode, please subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes and leave a rating and a review. I know that it might seem small, but the reviews make a really big impact and they help us get more amazing guests and they make sure that we can come back every single week and give you all this free content right here on the show. And don't forget to go to thefemshow.com to submit your question. If you have a question that you want us to answer, seriously, go. That's where we get all the content ideas for this. So let us know. We'll give you a shout out on the show. Go to thefemshow.com and give us your question.
Yes, please. And if you want to discuss this episode with us and the whole community of amazing, ambitious entrepreneurs, and if you want to catch Mariah live stream, because she does there now, make sure to join our free Facebook group at thefemshow.com/community.